So this is the measurement needed for this dress. So we'll start by taking our measurements. Remember, our chest measurement is bust divide by 6. Then we'll go ahead to add 1.5 is allowance to that. So we're going to start off by marking our shoulder measurement, which is 16 divided by 2, which is 8. So mark our shoulder measurement 8 inches. After that, we use a ruler to connect, just like I'm doing. Go ahead and mark the neck measurement. Neck measurement is basic neckline is bust divide by 12. So I'm using 3 here, 3 by 3 inches. That's for standard neckline, and I'm going to do 1 inch shoulder slant. So from the shoulder slant, I'm going to mark 7 inches plus additional 1.5 inch. That's where I'll be marking. And then I'll mark the 1.5 inch is for ease, which is 7.5 plus ease, 7 plus 1.5, that's 8.5. Then I'm going to mark my under bust measurement, shoulder to under bust, which is 15, and then the shoulder to half waistline, which is 18. I like to remark on the other side so that I can get same lines, straight lines. So I'll go ahead, I'll finish marking, and then I will draw the line. So I will go ahead and add the difference between the front and the back. The difference between the front and the back, it is 2 inches. So I add it. That will later become our new waistline. And then from I will label bust, under bust, chest line. There's no bust line yet. So the next thing I'll do is to mark my hip measurement, the hip waist to the hip measurement. You mark and then you connect. Go ahead. Bust measurement. For this corset, bust measurement, the under bust, from the under bust measurement, under bust divided by 4 will be minusing half inch. So we have under bust measurement, which is 37 or 9.25. We removed half inch from it. Yes, minus half inch, that's for tightening. And then the waist measurement is 38. We will remove 1 inch from it. 38, that's 9.5 divided by 4, that's 9.5. We remove 1, that's 8.5. We repeated the same thing on that line between the difference between the front and the back. And then on the hip line, we mark our hip measurement, and then we'll go ahead and add the allowance for tightening. For bust tightening, we'll be adding half inch on the bust line, and then for the bust tightening, we'll be adding half inch. But before then, we're going to go ahead and calculate just the calculation I did now. I minus the bust minus under bust, which is equal to 5 divided by 2, which is 2.5. So I minus half, which is 2. This is to know how much tightening you need. So we'll be doing 2 inches bust tightening. So that's why I went ahead and add 2 inches on the under bust waistline and the hip. The additional 2 inches is for tightening. After adding all the allowances, I connected. Remember that 2 inches is only half inch we added on the bust line, while the rest we added the 2 inches. So the next thing we'll be doing is to find the midpoint of the armhole. Then we'll go in by 0.75 to create the curve, the armhole curve. Then we'll connect. Next thing we're going to do is to take a nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which is 4.5, and then we'll mark to the end 4.5. This will help us create our dot line. Just like I'm doing. And then we'll also use the half of the nipple point. We'll keep the 4.5 on our under bust line and measure 4 inches upward, which is now our bust line. So that's how we got our bust line. Remember, you can as well measure from shoulder to the bust, but this method works well for me. That's why I use it. I went ahead to mark half of the nipple point as well, nipple to nipple, from my bust till the hip line. I measure 6 inches downward from the shoulder and mark. That will be where my bust tightening will be. I measure half of the shoulder slant minus the neck. I find the midpoint, then mark to create a dot line from the shoulder out to the bust line. On that 6 inches from the shoulder I marked, I'll take half inch on both sides of the lines and use it to create my over bust dart. This will enable the dress to be tight around the chest, to be properly seated around the chest area, to avoid gaping. We'll go ahead and mark the 1.25 on the side part of the dress, and then 0.75 on the smaller part of that nipple to nipple line. Then we're going to connect. This is for our bust tightening. You can also make it 1 inch on both sides, but I like one side, especially the side piece of the dress, to be bigger. I don't like it when the middle point looks overly tiny, overly small. So then use your curve ruler to create that curve shape. Having done that, I just will move ahead to we sketch the lines to be very visible. So I wanted to the line to be very visible. So that is my bust tightening, my under bust tightening. So the next thing I'm going to do is the 2 inches we had as a difference between the front and the back. We're going to mark 2 inches below the bust line and then connect it to the apex, which is the bust point, and then we shade. All the shaded areas are dart areas and they'll be removed. So currently I have about 3 darts. All of them have been removed. In order to close one dart, you need to open one dart. You can open any of the darts to enable you close the other, whether the over bust that bust tightening or the under bust tightening. So the next thing is to determine how deep I want the cleavage to be, and then I'll measure from my neckline or shoulder point or neckline to the point which I want, and I'll connect using my curve ruler. So before I do that, I want to close the side the bust that rather, before curving it, and then the upper dart, because if I do it without closing up the darts, I will have discrepancies. So in order to avoid that, I will be closing the darts first before I proceed in creating the curve, the neck curve. So I'm closing the upper dart now. You fold along the one dart leg and then move it and overlap it onto the next dart leg. Keep it down with a masking tape or a sellotape. I like to use masking tape because I can always write or draw anything over it, and then it will be visible, unlike the sellotape that is always a challenge. So since I've covered closed up the overbust dart, I'm going to go ahead and mark from 1 to 6. This masking tape, I've covered the initial mark. I'll mark from 1 to 6 because that's where I want the curve to start from, and then I'll measure again where I want it to stop. I took 9.5 inch. Initially I wanted to take 10.5. So I'll go ahead and curve. You can take as deep as you want. If you want your cleavage to be very open, 10.5, it's okay. I'll go ahead and connect until it blends into my armhole curve. Having done that, right now I'll go ahead and add my allowance. Ideally you're supposed to add just half-inch allowance on corset, but I like to add 1 inch or 1.5. Now I have trust issue. I'm a Nigerian. Most of our body sizes will just increase and reduce like that. Our body shapes are often very unstable. This 1 inch have saved me at least twice or 3 times last year. So I keep it. I like to keep it for a safety nest. I'll go ahead and cover my bust dart, and I'll tape it down. But if your client don't mind if they outgrow the dresses, you can use just the half-inch. But my clients are not celebrities, so I need to make sure that they can wear this dress again, even if it means me using the 1 inch for expansion. So that's why I keep it. So having done that, so you see that the two lines are not matching again, so I blend them in. And then to get my 1 inch, to make sure I have exactly 1 inch. The initial measurement, I took 1.5 inch so that I can have excess after taking in the bust dart. So I just mark my 1 inch allowance, and then I'll go ahead and cut it out. Just keep watching. I'll go ahead and cut out my under bust dart. When cutting this, do not rush so that you don't make mistakes, so that you don't smoothen out the curves. So you gently cut them out. So after taking nine that 9.5 inch I took, I was not very sure, so I had to extend it to at least 10 inch. Okay, so now for the hem. After taking in the dart, you notice that the two piece front piece are no longer equal. Yes, because the side will now be 2 inches shorter than the center front. So you see now my new waistline is now on that second 2 inches we added. So in order to okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do, in order to get the accurate measurement, I take out the dart and then I'll piece the two together and mark my hem, or before doing your styling, the styling for the hem. So for this one, there's no styling. I'll just simply mark 4 inches from the waist measurement, which is where the length of the corset to stop. 4 inches from the waist measurement, and I'm going to mark 8. And then for the center front, I'll do waist to 5 inches. So taking 4 inches on the side and 5 inches on the center enables it to just gives it a little bit of styling and helps holding the client's tummy as well, because the major reason why we want to be snatched is to contour, or to snatch in our tummy rather. So making it 1 inch longer or even 2 inch longer helps to accommodate your stomach better. And I went ahead to connect then I'll cut through. So I'll go ahead and start marking for the back. So the difference is that the back will not have that, will not add that additional 2 inches. You know, if at the front we did 18, then plus additional 2 inches again for the difference between the front and the back. But for the back, we won't be doing that. We'll just have our waist measurement and then our hip measurement, which means it's automatically 2 inches shorter than the front. Go ahead and mark our horizontal line, our shoulder measurement, and then we'll take our shoulder measurement on our shoulder line. And remember the calculation we did: bust measurement divided by 6, which is 7 plus 1.5, which is 8.5, and then we'll take our 1 inch shoulder slant. So we'll go ahead and take our 1 inch shoulder slant. For the black back, we'll have 1 inch shoulder depth, neck depth by 3 inches. Your neck width should be the same regardless of the size, style, or anything, so that it will match. Why your depth measurement can differ. Going to mark our chest line, our under bust line, our waistline. Connects. From the waist to the hips, I don't have enough pattern paper, so I just took 6 inches. Taking the neck measurements and then the shoulder slant. We find the midpoint of the shoulder, of the armhole line rather, and then we'll mark. We step in by ½ inch. Remember, in front we step in by 3/4. For the back we'll do ½ inch. In fact, if you want, you can do ½ inch for the back and 0.2 ½ inch for the front and 0.25 for the back. Connect. We'll go ahead to mark a bust measurement, but unlike the front, we took the exact bust measurement. For the back, we'll be taking out ½ inch from the bust measurement, and then we'll go ahead to mark our under bust measurement minus ½ inch as well, and our waist measurement minus 1 inch. So we'll go ahead and measure all you have on your front pattern along the hem of your front pattern and transfer it to the back pattern. That is what I did. What I had was 11 inches, so I transfer it. I added 1½ inch for that on the under bust and the waist. On the chest, I added just ½ inch for that tightening, and then on the hip I did not add anything. Go ahead and connect. Before taking my that measurement, I'll be removing for the opening behind, that's for the back styling. I'll be removing 1.5 on the chest line. On the waistline, I'll be moving 1 inch, and then on the hem, I'll be removing half inch, and then I will just connect them together. Having connected them, I'll measure what I have left. Remember, there is no allowance on this dress yet. I only added the that allowance from the waistline to the 1 inch you removed. You find the midpoint and use the midpoint as your that line. So I'll measure what from that place I marked the midpoint of my waistline. I marked to the end. What I have was 5.5, so I will mark 5.5 from the chest line down. I'll go ahead and share the 1.5 inch on both sides of the line, which is 0.75 on each side of the line. So I'll go ahead and share 0.75 on each side of the line. I'll now use my ruler. I'll go ahead and go up above the chest line by 1 inch or between 1 inch to 2 inches upward. I initially did 1 inch, but later increased it to 1.5 because I wanted enough tightening behind. So go ahead and connect your back darts should stop at least 5 inches from your waistline. So that is what I did. I marked 5 inches from my waistline and mark, because my customer is very curvy. For less curvier clients, I do 6 inches. So after doing this, I noticed I didn't have up to half inch tightening on the chest line, so I simply extended the line upward, and retake my that I took. I extended by 1.5. Like I said, 1.5 or 1 inch to 2 inches is okay. And then I make sure I have up to 0.25 on both sides of the lines on the chest line, and then I connect. So this is me reconnecting the line to make sure that the new lines are visible for you to see. Having done that, I will not decide how I want the back to be. Remember, this is an off shoulder dress, so I'll go ahead and I'm stepping down from the chest line by 1 inch. You can actually leave it straight if you want, but I like it when it's a bit, a bit downward at the center of the back. So that is what I did. I came down by 1 inch and then I slanted it down. Now my dress is ready. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add my sewing allowance. So I'll add 1 inch sewing allowance, because what I added at the front, it is 1 inch. So I'm adding same 1 inch sewing allowance to the back piece, and then I'll connect. I'll place my front piece on my back piece to make sure I have same measurement. so that long I won't have shortage when I start sewing. So I'm going to use my front piece, and then I'll use it to mark where the back piece will as well stop. And then I'll go ahead, take my tape and measure from the waist to 5 inches, just like we did at the front. 5 inches at the center back, and then I'll connect to that 4 inches there. Having done that, I will now go ahead and cut, because my back pattern it's ready. Is that very simple? I'll go ahead and take out the dots before cutting through. I'm supposed to take out folding the dart before cutting, but I didn't do that, so doing it now is still not bad. I'll just blend it in. You need to do this, because if you don't do this when you are joining, it will be unequal. So you see, I've taken out that excess. I had excess of about 0.25. So I'll go ahead and take out the dart. To avoid confusion, I went ahead and label my pattern center back and side back. Then I draw an arrow on this to show me where I will join them. I changed my mind because before completing this, I called my client and she said she does not want her bust to be fully covered. So I took out additional half inch from the height of my cup to allow her cleavage a little bit of exposure. But if your client don't want any exposure, 6 inches is okay. And if you want it to be very exposed, you can take 7 inches or even 7.5 from your shoulder. So I removed an additional half inch from my cleavage height, from my bust height rather, and then I trim it off. So having done that, I bring in the fabric I'm using. I'm using a velvet fabric, tape matte velvet fabric. You see the way it looks. It's not that one that is always Swiss, and it's very shiny. It's creamy, and very skin friendly. This one is sold for 3,000 to 3,500 per yard. So I got this, and then I'll go ahead and infuse my interface on it. You can use satin or even cotton lining to as stabilizer, to stabilize it if you want. You place your fabric, take hemming gum, put your hemming gum and laminate either a satin or a cotton lining to it to give it that stable and firm feel. But for this project, I will not be using that. I'll be using Estee instead. Estee is also gives it a good outcome, but cotton lining infused or satin infused gives better results, especially if you don't want it to stretch at all. So I'll be interfacing